welcome to my booktube.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. This video is going to be a little bit of everything. So welcome, thank you so much if you're new, welcome back if you've come back after all of this time, I've missed you. So I didn't mean to take this long of a break from booktube. I had accidentally started to take a break and then I was like, I'll just get back to it soon. And it's been 5 months, so here we are. It is what it is, and we're just gonna move on from here. If you're interested in why I was gone and what I've been up to, I'll probably include that in a vlog because I had a lot of fun filming vlogs, so I think I'll get back into those. But today is going to be a recap of what my TBR was back in September, and then what I was able to finish, what else I've read since, and then we'll talk about what my TBR is for the rest of February. Some things are still on my TBR from February, and I do have some books that I actually did end up reading in between, so let's jump into all of that. So to recap what my TBR was back in September, we have Girls of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson, we have Starsight by Brandon Sanderson, Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, this one is Blood of Elves by Andrew Sapkowski, The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, The Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, and Becoming by Michelle Obama. So, part of the reason why I hit a reading slump so hard, I think, on top of all the life stuff that was going on, was because I started way too many of these books at the same time. So I was reading so many of them at once, and progress was very slow. So I think that could have been part of it. One of the first books I did finish was Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson. I loved this book. The main character in here, she starts off the series as this short, plump, shy girl and like can relate. But she ends up becoming so strong and so powerful and badass and just mostly with herself, and her self-confidence really grows, and I really appreciated watching her arc. I enjoyed the romance in this story and the side characters. Like, a lot of the aspects of this story was so intriguing. Her religion, everything behind her powers was intriguing. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series, and then I continued on with some of the other ones in my TBR. But the rest of the series I read later on, and that's what helped me get through my reading slump. So I did read The Crown of Embers and The Bitter Kingdom, the rest of the trilogy. So good. It was so good, you guys. All of the books. I probably read each of them in a day. They were just... I just loved them. And also, I think I said this when I did a recap back when I read the spin-off from this series, which was The Empire of Dreams. One of the characters from here had her own story, and when I read that book, it was so good, which was what made me go out and buy the whole trilogy. But one of the things about this series that I also really enjoyed was there was something about the storytelling or the atmosphere that very much reminded me of the book series by Tamora Pierce that I read as a child and absolutely adored. I read the Song of the Lioness Quartet, Wild Magic Quartet. There's on my other shelf across the room. And then the one after that, I can't remember what the quartet was called, and then I started the fourth quartet in that world. And there's just something about that series that I absolutely love. It'll be an all-time favorite of my whole life. Every time I get sick, I go back and read them. But this series, I think, is going to end up being an all-time favorite as well. There's something so nostalgic and warm and like coming home to about this series that I really enjoyed. Yeah, I really do want to reread them already, but I have so many books that I want to get to in 2021 because we really dropped the ball at the end of last year, so I really want to catch up. I did, I think, end up reading 46 books in total last year, which was great, but we want to beat that this year, so let's get on with it. I think I'm just gonna stack them there. The next book that I finished was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. I also really liked this book. It was fun. I haven't read too much sci-fi, so this was a great story, and I love Spensa. I know some people don't really like her and find her in the first book to be super hot-headed. I don't mind that. I really enjoyed her. I love Mbot, and I love Doomslug, and the three of them, just fantastic. I can't wait for the next book to come out. I don't know when it's coming out, but yeah, this was fantastic. Really, really good. I did listen to it on an audiobook as well as reading. I went back and forth between them, so I highly recommend the audiobook too because that was really fun. Continuing the good news, I also did finish Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. This story was so cute, and I had seen other people's reviews of it before I got into it, so I did know that it starts off as her trying to be the Emperor's tailor and working in that competition, but she has to dress as a guy, so it's like Mulan meets Project Runway, I think I've heard it described. I've never seen Project Runway, so I don't know. But then it becomes like a traveling / romance story in the second half. But I really enjoyed both parts. I thought the magic was really fun. I loved the stories and the myths behind it. I do want to read the second book this year, so we'll see when we get to that. So I just realized that I had the wrong book up here, and I've replaced it. I've actually put the Well of Ascension here because I had the Hero of Ages sitting there, so brief spoiler. Anyway, I did finish The Blood of Elves by Sapkowski. This is the first of the book series for Witcher, because the first 2 books are short stories, and I really liked this. It's so fun to have Ciri in the story, and she's hilarious and precious, and I really like Geralt. We haven't seen much of Yennefer yet, which is a shame. Like, she was in a bit of the short stories, but I mean, it's been a while since I read this one. I don't remember her being in this one much, and that sucks because I love her. I know a lot of people don't because she's really mean, but that's why I adore her. I haven't read Time of Contempt yet. I'm starting to read it. This is on my TBR for this month, hopefully, if I can get to it. But yes, so we'll put this one up here. Now that we actually have the Well of Ascension. I did finish this book. I didn't finish it in September. It took me a while to get to it, but I really enjoyed this. I love Vin. I love Elend. I love the whole group. The series is so good, and I do want to continue, but the end of the second book just hit me so hard that I'm not ready to pick up the next one because I just have a feeling that the end of the entire series is going to be even more intense than the end of this one was. So I haven't quite started The Hero of Ages. It's the last book in the trilogy of the first era of Mistborn, and I really do want to read it. I'm hoping to start it this month. Let's give me the courage to start it this month. That's the plan. So we're going to put this one back up here, because apparently it was sitting here the whole time. When it comes to Harrow the Ninth, this book has been going really slowly for me. I'm still reading it. I'm on, I think I'm about 2/3. No, I'm probably about halfway through. So the first book in this series is Gideon the Ninth, and we're inside Gideon's head, coming from her perspective, everything. But in the second book, the perspective is told from Harrow. And I really like Harrow. It's just what's going on in the story at the beginning of this book is so confusing. And I know it's intentionally confusing, and I really like that. And I love the way that this is written, but it's just so slow that I've been taking my time with it, but I really do like it. I don't know how to explain how I really like something, but it's slow, so I'm barely touching it. That's just how it's going. I've heard, because there's this girl at my local bookstore that every time I go in, she's like, how's Harrow the Ninth going? And I'm like, only at this part, girl. She's like, just wait till you get to the 5th act. Everything will just go so fast from there, so I'm waiting. I'm really liking it. I'm also listening to this on audiobook, and I love the narrator. She adds so much more personality to the story too, which is fantastic. But yeah, I really do want to continue with this. I have a feeling that as soon as I read this, I'm going to want to go back and reread Gideon and this one again. So we'll see how this goes. The next book, the next book is Goddess in the Machine. I didn't pick it up, and I don't really want to right now. I picked it up because it had come in one of my subscription boxes at the time, and I was like, let's try to keep up with my subscription box books. And it's been 5 months, and I'm really far behind in all of them, so it is a sci-fi book. I am interested in it. I do want to read it, just I'm not feeling it right now. we don't need another reading slump, so we're just going to put that aside. I am still reading The Way of Kings. This is another book that I, for some reason, am taking so long to read it. Like, I really like it. I'm really enjoying it. The characters are so interesting. I think that Shallan and Kaladin, of course, are the most interesting. I think one of the reasons why I keep putting it down is because I keep getting Dalinar's perspective, and as much as I like him, he's just not as fun to read as the others right now. I'm sure that'll change. But yeah, I just want to get more of Kaladin and Shallan because I really, really like them. But this book is also so big that when I pick it up, I want to be able to read for like more than an hour. So I've only been picking it up on weekends or when I know that I have the whole evening to be able to read. So that's why it's been going really slow. And my reading slump did last like 2 months where I didn't pick anything up. So that's partly why it's going so slowly. I do plan on finishing this one in February so that I can pick up the next one in March, but we'll see how that goes. It's already the 15th today, so I have less than 2 weeks. It's definitely possible. I'd like to finish these two this month for sure. Start this one and just read this one when I have time. Also, am still reading House of Earth and Blood. I've heard this book is really slow, so I have a feeling this one will be like a carry forward quite a few times, because it's just, I don't know, it's not super intriguing yet. The beginning's quite sad, and I was really sad when I started it, so probably not a good mix, let's be real. But I do like it. I do like Bryce, she's interesting. Her relationship with Hunt, is it Hunt? Yeah, it's very much like, it reminds me of what Rowan and Aelin would be like at the very beginning when they first met each other. So that's kind of fun. I've heard this book is super, super slow for the first couple hundred pages, so that's why I'm expecting it to take me a while to get through it. But I'm not disliking it, I'm liking it, I'm just taking my sweet time. So I might not finish this one this month, which is okay. I'm still reading Becoming by Michelle Obama, and I'm listening to this on audiobook because I love listening to her. I just love listening to her speak and tell me about her life. I put this down because 2 very sad things happened, and then I haven't picked it up since because a lot of sad stuff has happened in my life. Like, are we surprised? 2020 was a terrible time. But yeah, I just haven't picked it up since. I obviously know that it gets better. That's just where we're at with this for now, but it's really good. It's very interesting. Listening to her speak and tell her own story is wonderful. Yeah, I'm hoping to finish this one this month too, but we'll see because there's only 2 weeks left, and time during this pandemic just seems to pass by in the most bizarre and unpredictable way. Like, it's so slow and so fast at the same time. I'm sure other people can probably relate to that. So the last book that I'm adding to my TBR is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This book I got in a subscription box and I've wanted to pick it up for a while, but I want to read this one this month because both Elliot Brooks and Jessie May, they're both doing a buddy read of this book, and then I think they're doing a live stream at the end of the month, and I just really want to participate in that and know what they're talking about and have already read the book very recently. So I want to add this one on. Hopefully I can get to it within the next 2 weeks before they do their live show. So fingers crossed I can get that done. This book just seems so interesting and I really want to pick this one up. This is ridiculous. This is so many books for 2 weeks. Here we are, doing this again. I feel really bad that I haven't been talking about what all of these books are about, but this recap is already so long, and I'm pretty sure when I did my TBR I probably already said a little bit about what they were about, so if you do want that information, you can go back and watch that video from 5 months ago. There's actually 3 other books that I did end up finishing. So one of them is a book that I hauled, and I have a whole shelf of books that I still need to do a haul video for, because I've been buying books, obviously, in the past 5 months, and I think it's been even longer than that since I did a book haul video, so there's going to be a lot in there coming up. But one of the books that I read was Depression and Other Magic Tricks by Sabrina Benaim. I picked this up because she's a Canadian author and it was by Button Poetry, so that sounded really interesting. I saw it on one of the shelves in my local bookstore and I just really wanted to read this one, but also it was very, very relatable and so interesting. I really enjoyed reading this. Another thing that I found is I really like reading poetry in bed before I go to sleep. Because if I read a novel or a book part of a series while I'm trying to fall asleep, I'm not going to fall asleep. And I've been having problems sleeping since early November, and that's a long time. So working this into part of my sleeping routine has been very helpful. And I read a couple poems every night before I fell asleep, and it was so good because if it's really good and you want to keep reading, you can just be like, oh, until the end of the next poem instead of until the end of the chapter and then the end of the book and then you're up until 3 o'clock in the morning. So we don't need any of that. So that's another book that I actually finished in the time that I was away. Another book that I picked up and finished was Bad Romance by Heather Demetrios. This book took me a long time to finish. Probably took me over a month, maybe 2 months to read this because it hit a lot closer to home than I was expecting it would. This was very, very, very similar to a relationship that I had in high school. Because yeah, I read this around when I was going through some of my high school diaries and it was a bit too real. And then the other book that I started and finished while I've been gone was The Poppy War by Rf Quang. And this book was so good. It was really interesting. It didn't take me very long to get through it. This was a recent read and a recent finish. Actually, this one I could probably put in this TBR because I recently finished it. Maybe I'll talk about it more in a wrap-up. We'll keep it over there. But yeah, for The Poppy War, I started and finished this recently as well. I think I started it late January and finished it last week. The magic in here is fantastic. I love Rin. I know a lot of people also don't like Rin, the main character, but I really liked her. One of the things I remember hearing in other people's reviews is the depiction of the sadness and the grief and all the traumas of war. And I was like, oh yeah, but most fantasy books do that. Not like this one does. This one really touched on a lot of other gory and traumatizing and grief-ridden pieces of war that I feel often are kind of just ignored, left out, glossed over, and I thought that this was really impactful. It was a really impactful read, but it was also a really interesting story. So I can't wait to pick up the second book, but I'm gonna make myself wait till March because I have all of those to finish still too. So yeah, this is my February TBR. You already know that I finished these two. I might talk about them a little bit more in my wrap-up at the end of the month because I haven't really got to talk about too much in this video, and this video is already probably going to be really long. And then I have all of these to finish or start. Wish me luck. But thank you again so much for watching. Let me know what you think of all of these books, any of the ones mentioned that I'm going to finish reading or that I've already read. Your thoughts, comments are always welcome. Let me know what you've been up to in the past 5 months while I've been gone too. How was the rest of your 2020? I'm so glad that that year is done. And hopefully all of us are having a great 2021. I hope you've had a really good start to the year and I wish you all the best. Talk to you next time. Bye!